Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's another fine cloudy day here in eastern North Carolina. We're getting into those fall temperatures. I think today's high is supposed to be about 70. I've been enjoying the nighttime temperatures around 60. It's very pleasant with the windows open. Either way, enough of the weather report. Before I tell you what these are, I'd just like to give a big thank you to all the new subscribers. I believe we've hit over 350 now, which is awesome. Hopefully the channel keeps growing. More people jump on board. Again, if you're a new subscriber, please feel free to anytime leave a comment, question, tips, something you'd like to see below. I'm always open to suggestions. So what's the story with these guys, you may be asking? These are my two pawpaw trees. If you haven't been following along, let me give you a quick update to them. Last year, around Valentine's Day, my wife wanted pawpaw trees for Valentine's Day. So I bought her pawpaw trees. I put them in pots and I babied them, and the plan was to plant them out last winter, but I thought I killed them last winter because they lost their leaves in October, or actually I think September actually, and I was freaking out, and then they came back and they were beautiful and wonderful this spring. And they were great throughout the summer. But pawpaws do have a long, big taproot. That being said, keeping them in pots is not really going to be an option. So they're going to get planted out into the orchard, which was always the plan. Again, just didn't know enough about pawpaws at the time, and I probably could have gotten away with planting them out in the orchard this past winter, but I didn't do that. So this winter, probably another month or two, they will be going out into the orchard. I just really wanted to get them off of my deck. They've lost their leaves, so the next step now is, since they're dormant, would be to plant them out. Planting them out is going to be a whole nother video because I have to take special care when I plant them out, and I'll explain more in detail about that because I have been doing some research and homework on that. If I do it right, hopefully they come back in the spring and they look wonderful and they grow to 15 to 20 foot tall, and they'll be providing fruit in a few years, as long as I can keep the deer off of them. That's a whole nother thing. But today, that's not today's thing. Today's thing is I'm going to be taking some cuttings of various plants, and the reason is cost savings, cost effectiveness. To buy all the hedging that I want for the entire property would literally cost me probably on the order of, I'm going to speculate, probably $6,000, maybe, because I want to get a lot more golden ticket privets. I don't know if you can see them in the shot in the back there. I want to get more, obviously, boxwoods. The flower garden's going to be surrounded in boxwoods. The vegetable garden's going to be surrounded in boxwoods. I want more rose bushes. But rose bushes they're not super expensive, but again, especially if you buy them bare root. But again, you know, costs add up, and if you can save yourself a few bucks by taking some cuttings, that's what you should probably do. So I want to grab my secateurs, and then we're going to start making some cuttings, and I'll show you what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And again, if you're more of an expert than I'm not an expert, I'm a novice. I've been figuring this out as I go along. But if you're an expert or have experience taking cuttings, please leave those comments below and let me know if I'm doing something wrong, right, or what your personal experiences have been. So the first plant I'm going to take cuttings of, and this looks like a boxwood, but I don't think it is. I thought last year it was a boxwood, and I actually labeled them front of house boxwood. This one's actually at the corner of the house, as you can see. But I was recently watching HortTube. If you don't follow HortTube, go check it out. I'll put a thing someplace. He was showing a plant yesterday called the Japanese Holly compacta. And he said it looked very much like box and you could treat it just like box. And I thought to myself, that kind of looks like the bushes I have out front. One of the distinguishing features, I think, of any holly, and again, I'm no plant expert, so if you have any opinions or thoughts on this matter, please leave them below. If this video does make it to Mr. Putnam and he sees it, please leave those comments below. It'd be much appreciated. But I think one of the main distinguishing features for any holly is that the leaves have points on them. You've all probably seen like a Christmas holly. I'm probably calling, yeah, I have a Christmas holly bush. You've probably seen other hollies. I have a Nellie Stevens holly, and all the leaves are pointy. So I came over here and I started taking a closer look at this guy. The leaves have little points to them on the edges. So this very much looks like a boxwood, but I'm pretty sure now this is a Japanese holly. And I don't know if the variety is compacta or not. It could be compacta. Again, I don't know. I'm not a gardening expert. And again, if Mr. Putnam sees this video at some point, maybe he'd leave a comment to the effect. But anyways, This bush grows great. I have pruned this. Actually, I'm going to prune it again this December. I don't know if I should be pruning it in the winter, but I think if I prune it in the winter, it looks great for the springtime, and then it throws up enough growth, and now I can trim. I'm just going to start cutting. And so really what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a few pieces here. From my understanding, you can grab fresh growth or old growth. It doesn't really matter. And again, I'm going to be cutting this thing back here. So I'm just going to grab, I'm looking for long straight pieces. Again, I don't know if this really matters, but this is what I'm doing. And I've got 4. And the reason I only am taking 4 right now is because that's how many tags I have made up over on the potting bench. Let's go over there now. Yeah, I was watching Gardener's World the other night. Monty Don had been talking about, he's the host of the show, he'd been talking about taking cuttings, immediately putting them into plastic bags, because as soon as you take the cutting, the plant itself is losing moisture, and you don't want the plant to obviously dry out. I don't feel that urgent need today for numerous reasons, and one of them being it's cloudy and cool. If I was doing this in the heat of the summer, absolutely, but so next I'm turning around and I'm ripping off a lot of these leaves here, because you don't need apparently a lot of the leaves, and that only stresses the plant out if you have too many leaves, because then it's trying to, now it's no roots, no nothing here, and it's trying to sustain these few leaves. So I'm really just gonna pluck most of them off here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to one of the nodes where the leaves were, and I'm going to cut, I think right about there. So now really I have, it's probably about 1.5 inches maybe of a stem. I actually can take that leaf off too. Last year I was leaving on like 3 or 4 inches of stem, and I find that the roots just really come out of the bottom. So I'm really just going to take this, stick it into a pot that I've already prepared. Ta-da! Label, and since I don't know what variety this is, I'm just labeling it Japanese holly. And then once I get all the other cuttings set, I will turn around and water these. And what I'm going to do with the cuttings today is I'm just going to leave them on the bench, because again, growing zone 8A, the weather's not supposed to turn to freezing anytime soon. What I will do this year is I will transfer. Last year I left them all out in the garden in one of the raised beds, and they were fine. I still have cuttings that I need to plant out because they're getting big. It's amazing how fast some of this stuff grows. But I think this year I'm going to move them, transfer them into the greenhouse so they stay a little warmer and maybe they grow a little faster. I don't know. Experiment. Again, any thoughts, comments, leave them below. So I'll show you what I was doing last year. Just strip all these leaves off. I'm sure there's a smoother way of doing this or a better way, but this is what I'm doing. So what I was doing last year, and again, being pretty much a novice, is I would cut, let's say, here. And now I'd plant all this, but the roots come out of the bottom. So that means all of this doesn't have roots. Cuttings I took last year, they're growing, they're fine, but I think that's a lot of waste, and they basically put all the roots at the bottom of the cup. If I cut them shorter, they'll hopefully have more roots in the cup. Let me show you a close-up of what I'm cutting. So I just ripped all the leaves off, and you can see all these little nodes where the leaves were. So I'm just cutting at an angle. I don't know if it matters if you cut at an angle or straight, but right below one of those nodes. But it's right below one of those where the leaves were coming out. The one thing I did learn last year, and again, I'm a novice gardener, but you have to make sure that they get water pretty much consistently, and not every cutting is going to survive. So if you think you need 4 plants, do 8. It can't really hurt. If you have extras and you don't need them, you can give them out to friends, families, etc. I think I had about on the boxwood cuttings, I'd probably say about a 20 to 30% loss. And again, some of that could have been just from lack of watering. I don't know where I left off. Sorry, distracted by a loud boom boxy thing, car, bass, thumping, noise, head vibrating thing going on around the corner. Anyways, yeah, so I'm going to turn around and collect some more cuttings. I'm going to get some baby gems, which I have growing along the side of the vegetable garden. I'm going to get sprinter boxwoods, and then I'm going to do something I've never done before, and I'll show you that in a second. The next thing I'm going to take a cutting of is something like I said, I've never taken cutting before. I have no idea how it's going to work out. I've seen it on television. I think I've seen it on YouTube too a few times, most recently on Cog Family Farm Hills, something along. Again, if I remember, I'll leave a thing here. In that video, Jason, another Jason, he turned around and grabbed a bunch of wild roses from the side of the road and took a lot of the ones that had roots, and he planted them up into pots, and then he took a lot of cuttings from those and stuck them into pots, and they all started taking off, which is wonderful. I'm not going to be doing that, but I do have some roses that I want to take cuttings of. Secateurs, clippers, whatever you want to call these things. I'm going to grab them. I've got them. Now I'm going to go take a cutting. Let's go do that now. Last Christmas, my wife turned around and bought me this rose here. This is Earth Angel. It's a heritage breed. I think due to the heat, it didn't really bloom a lot in the summer. We did get some blooms during the springtime. Lovely blooms. I believe it's white, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, this is a plant that I do like, obviously. I like pretty much, I can't think of a rose I don't like. So I'm going to try to propagate it and maybe get a few more out of this. And maybe I'll plant those in the rose garden. This one I think I'm going to keep in the pot here, but it definitely will need to be repotted in the springtime. And when I do that, I'll bring you guys along for that. Hopefully, if I remember. But either way, according to the instructions and the experts, you'd like to get a piece, a long straight piece that's about the thickness of a pencil. What I'm going to do is probably grab a few of these that are a little taller than others, and I'm going to cut it right back towards the base. So I got a long straight piece here, and I think I'm going to grab another one. Oh, this one back here. It's not the length of a thickness of a pencil, but it's pretty long and straight. So I'll cut this right back to here, I think. Actually, it's a crossing branch, which means that part of the branch is crossing with another part of the branch. So I'm just going to remove that now before we wind up with any problems down the road. This one's pretty good right here. So I'll take a cut right down here towards the bottom. I think that'll be good. So let's go get these into pots, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Again, don't know if I'm doing the right thing. So if you have experience with this, please leave a comment below. So first thing I'm going to do is fill up some cups with soil. By the way, I'm just using a potting mix on all these cups. Nothing fancy. And I'm actually on the fence about whether I should be using larger cups or not. Maybe a pot, bigger pot, I don't know. All right, now for the fun part. So I think I'm going to start with this piece. See, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm gambling here, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, so the bottom piece here has no leaves. I'm just going to cut that. I'll cut off the Y. I'm just going to make a fresh cut here on the bottom. So, if I remember my homework correctly, you need at least a 6 to 8 inch long piece, which I think I have here. You cut the top straight and the bottom at an angle just to know which side is up. I'm pretty sure this is right way up. And you stick it into a pot. Now this piece is thinner than a pencil, but I'm still going to give it a shot. Worst case scenario, nothing grows. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I'm going to snip it here. And then what is recommended is you take off all the leaves, stick this in a pot, and of course make sure you label all your pots. And this one's pretty good, so I'm just gonna grab, maybe I'll just do it right, I'll remove the top part and I'll leave the rest. And I'll do a slice down here. All right, I'll stick that in the pot. All the miscellaneous pieces and whatnot I will just obviously put in a bucket and now go into the compost heap. So it's really not wasted, it just becomes a different resource. Now, this rose bush here is Mr. Lincoln. Mr. Lincoln was my first David Austin rose bush. When I had it in New York, it performed beautifully. And now we're in North Carolina, transported it with us when we moved to North Carolina. It had taken a lot of abuse from the deer. It's been eaten back to the stems quite a few times. Any fresh stems that came out, the deer were getting. Since then, I've put up an automated sprinkler, and Mr. Lincoln and as fellow compatriots behind me here in the rose garden have been flourishing. They've been doing very well. Mr. Lincoln's already flowered a few times this year, and I see 2 buds going on him now. So I think I'm going to turn around and try to find 2 relatively good pieces that I can take cuttings of to then propagate Mr. Lincoln, so I can have more Mr. Lincolns in the future. Maybe a whole drift of Mr. Lincoln bushes. Well, let's first see if I can take some cuttings and see if those cuttings will grow. That's one. All right, I got my 2 cuttings, and let's go see if I can pot them up. So that's going to be about it for today. I took a bunch of cuttings now. The cuttings I took were just for demonstration purposes. I need a lot more cuttings of everything. So I'm going to be taking more, but I didn't want to bore you with me cutting 100 pieces of the Japanese holly or 50 pieces of the boxwood or etc., etc. So I tried to keep this as short as possible. That being said, if you've done anything like this before, taking cuttings or what you've taken cuttings of, please leave those comments below. I always appreciate all the comments. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Again, it helps with the YouTube algorithm. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified when I do post up a new video. This way it's the easiest way to determine whether you want to watch all my videos or a couple of my videos, whatever piques your interest. That's going to do it for today. I'm going to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.